Hello, everybody. Welcome to CoinFund Q&A. Today we have Eyal Herzog from Bancor Project. Welcome, Eyal. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, awesome. So we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with respect to Bancor and how it works. Do you want to give us a little overview of the project and how you came to be involved?
Yeah, sure. So that Bancor Protocol is actually it's after a very long journey that we had in this world of currencies and cryptocurrencies. It actually started when me and a group of friends that all came from the kind of end user application development, a consumer application. I had like a video website, which was like one of the top 100 websites in the world, MetaCafe, and my co-founders, Guy and Galia and Yudi, they came more from the kind of gaming world, building games on top of Facebook, also in the millions. So we're coming from kind of the mass market space. And in 2010, we were like very interested in how money works and kind of researching this topic of central banks, and it was like a very I think just intellectual curiosity. And then we discovered Bitcoin in 2012. And what we saw when we saw Bitcoin, we saw the potential for user-generated currencies, and because that was kind of the first wide successful user-generated currencies that we saw that traded in many countries. So
why are user-generated currencies interesting?
So this is, that was a question that it's I mainly learned in the hard lesson in MetaCafe, because MetaCafe was really focused on the hits, on the top videos, the most viral, the most successful videos in the world, and we built like a homepage that kind of using algorithm was able to bring the best videos. What we missed is that 99.9% of the traffic is in the long tail of video, not in the hits. And the long tail is a phenomena that happens whenever you have user-generated something. So when, for example, when it was hard to create an article and publish it to the world, then you had newspaper, but when it became like frictionless and easy and you can blog, then you had the long tail of blogs with the blogosphere. The same goes for video. You used to have to own a TV station if you want to broadcast video. But when you have tools like YouTube or MetaCafe, then all of a sudden it becomes really simple, and you see a long tail of user-generated video. And I think we can talk for hours about how long tail is kind of showing itself in different online phenomena, but it's usually when something that used to cost a lot now doesn't cost anything. So there's reducing the risk of failure, low cost of failure, essentially. And when we saw that anyone can create a secure currency online with this kind of simplicity, then we envisioned that this is going to happen. And that we didn't invent the idea of user-generated currency. For example, community currencies existed for a long time. There are thousands of successful examples of community currencies around the world. Business-to-business barter currencies. There are also every loyalty point that you ever saw. It's a form of private currency that was created by a business, and it can, they can issue that currency. So there are many examples of how we kind of use that tool, because this is what it is. A currency, money is a tool. It's a tool for collaboration, if you will. And we believe that this is a tool that now that everyone can use it. It also has to do a lot with smartphones, because when you have internet in your pocket, then you can have user-generated digital money. As long as you didn't have internet in your pocket, that was not an option, and that really only happened 2010 later and after that. And so we did some pilots 2012 13 with local currencies that we built on top of a platform that we built, because there was no Ethereum at the time. There was just Bitcoin. So we created like a centralized cloud-based platform, And it was an amazing success. I would almost say to our surprise, because just in one community, it really got quickly to the point of 1,000 transactions per day. People buying and selling goods and services with each other with the currencies that we invented for them. And that was just one community of moms, of young moms that use the system. And then more communities were like onboarded, and they wanted to start to trade with each other, so they can use each other's use their own community currencies on other to buy from another currency. So we started to think kind of how we solve that problem, and we started to play with different kind of models and had different kind of pilots. It was a learning experience for us. It all came down to years after that, when Ethereum came along. We saw that, and we saw that it could solve maybe the biggest problem that we ran into, that all those local currencies that we created were essentially, they were not liquid to the national currency. They were not liquid to the rest of the country. They were like isolated islands. It's like, a network is a very useful technology, but it's much better when it's connected to the internet, right? I mean, I can have a network in my office or company or house, and it would be useful, but it goes to another level when it kind of connects to the global network. So we saw in Ethereum kind of the solution to do that, and this is where we started to work on the Bancor Protocol. And from that, we came up to this model that really solves the problem of liquidity for small-scale currencies, because small-scale currencies like local currencies or loyalty point, they were not able to get liquidity because there was not enough kind of activity on the exchanges in order for the currency to be liquid.
Right, or in the extreme case, when you just brought up a currency yourself, nobody even knows about it, right? So how can you even hope to trade it on the exchange
Right.
if you're the only holder, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is like we call it a barrier to liquidity. That's how we call it, a barrier to liquidity. You need to be at a certain size in order to kind of become liquid, and we learn to kind of understand that this is a result of something called the double coincidence of wants problem. And the double coincidence of wants problem, it sounds maybe fancy, but it's a concept. And the concept is that with the double coincidence of wants, this is the problem that money solves for barter. So with barter, you need a double coincidence of wants, of meeting two people that have opposite wants, and they have this coincidence of meeting, and now they can issue a transaction. They can have the transaction, but money is a technology that solved that problem for barter, and now I can sell whenever I want, and then I can later on buy from someone else something else. So I don't have to create this coincidence of wants in order to create a transaction. And if you want to go back, you can even say that writing as the technology is the double coincidence of wants for human communication. So before writing, we had to kind of meet, talk, and you had to want to listen while I was wanting to talk, and this is how we can pass information between us. But thanks to writing, I can talk to the paper, and then you can read from the paper when you feel like it. And this double coincidence of one problem still exists today in asset exchange. So if I want to convert my Bitcoins to dollars, I need to be matched with someone with opposite wants at the same time that want to convert dollar to Bitcoin. And again, that is rare. That is hard. And it was not so solvable. Smart contracts came along, because smart contracts is the first time that I can create a token that actually hold itself other tokens. So money that uses money. I couldn't create money that uses money, that manage money before smart contracts. And the way that Bancor Protocol works is that it allows the creation of what we call smart tokens. And the smart tokens are tokens.
One second, just a question for you. So wouldn't like when you think of traditional financial instruments, right? So these are like, if you think of derivatives, wouldn't these be kind of like contracts that have underlying instruments in a similar way that you're describing, that tokens can quote unquote hold other tokens? right? So when you have like a future for, you're buying a contract for delivery of a commodity in the future and so forth. So
Yeah,
isn't that kind of the same thing?
so it's similar, but there's one crucial difference. With with many, when I'm saying currencies in general, I'm referring to the free floating currencies that actually traded on the market. So you can think about every stock, you can think about every token that was issued in a token sale. All those tokens, they don't have any underlying assets, but somehow they have value. They have value because people believe that they are useful for different purposes, and are willing to pay in order to acquire them, because and if more and more people believe that, and more people want to acquire those currencies, then the value of each unit will go up naturally, like we see in Bitcoin and Ether and many other currency. Now, when we're talking about derivatives or loans, so there is that component, but derivative and loan, it's more like it's a promise. It's a promise to kind of, for example, derivative would be a promise to pay you based on some external event that happens. So there's someone who need to back that promise. A loan is a promise to pay you more than you gave after, in a specific period that come afterward. And again, this is something which has a counterparty risk. It has kind of a promise that someone has to fulfill in order to kind of pay back this loan. Where we're talking about currencies, we're talking about any asset that is freely traded in exchanges where the market is setting the prices using the process called price discovery. And this price discovery process and liquidity in general, those are two things that you gain by being listed in an exchange. I mean, the difference between a token that is not listed to exchange to one that is listed in an exchange is the one that is listed can have a price discovery by the market forces, and has some level of liquidity, and the liquidity is determined by the order book, by the market depth. You can also refer to it. So if there's a currency with a very light order book, you would say it's not so liquid. It has low liquidity because you can't really sell it. You try to sell it, the price like drop dramatically. And so those mechanisms again work on exchanges. They work better as more and more are trading that specific asset, so they would work better. What Bancor Protocol is solving is essentially it's allowing the creation of smart tokens that they handle their own liquidity and price discovery in a method that we believe is superior in many ways to the way that it's done in exchanges, because with a smart token, I can define in advance that I want to have, just as an example, I want to have a reserve for my token in Ether. And I can define that I want this reserve to be exactly 10% of the market cap of my token. We call it CRR, Constant Reserve Ratio, which is the ratio between how much you hold in the reserve to what is the market cap of your currency. And
so if my smart token has a market cap of like 100 million, in your scenario, that means that 10 million would be held in reserve in Ether. Is that correct?
So Ether is just one option, but yes, I mean you can hold gold in the reserve. You can do gold. You can hold whatever token you want in a reserve. But in this case, it will hold 10 million in Ether in reserve. Maybe in this case, you would get to the conclusion that this is too much, and you don't need to have such a big reserve. And the group can be, the group of holders, or if they chose someone to manage the coin, they can actually give permission to someone to change those numbers and maybe reduce the reserve to 5% or 3%, or have a lower limit or upper limit. So there's a lot of flexibility of what you can do there. But the idea is that this reserve is the alternative to the order book that you would have in a reserve in exchange. Now, if you look at the order book on any size of currency, you can go to $50 million currency to 100 million or 500. You would see that more or less you have very less than 1% usually of kind of the market cap of the currency. You'll have the less than 1% of its value in the order book. Something might be a little more, something much less, but those are the numbers. So choosing a reserve of 10% is like really big. And the meaning of that being really big is that there is a very low slippage. So as people sell, the price drops, but it drops very gradually relatively to the transaction, to how much is being sold. Same goes when the token is purchased. So the whole idea of this constant reserve ratio, the way that this is how the price is calculated by the contract. It's actually pretty simple. So if I'm buying the token and I'm sending reserve to the token, I'm sending the reserve token. Like Ether. I'm sending Ether to the token, and this Ether is added to the reserve. Now I have more in my reserve. Because I have more in my reserve, the price is recalculated because the reserve has just grown, because it means that the market cap has just grown, because this is how the price is calculated. So, and when I want to sell the token, I actually I actually remove from circulation my tokens, and I'm taking money from the reserve. So I'll get Ether back. And so given how the reserve is calculated, the price will decrease. So you will have the situation where the price goes up when the token is purchased, goes down when it's sold, and it will kind of reach this price point where there's equilibrium between the selling and the buying. So it will always seek that equilibrium between selling and buying. What is the price point that will reach that equilibrium?
So that's really interesting. Just to recap, so you're kind of describing that, in a typical, let's say, cryptocurrency that we have today, we have some kind of nominal value as described by its market cap. But then if you actually go to the exchanges, count up the order books, what can you actually liquidate? It's just a small percentage. So you have, on the exchanges, you have a small percentage of value that's actually there to be exchanged, and kind of a large percentage of value. I don't know, how would you describe it? Is it like kind of speculative expectations of the future value? Is it a P ratio?
It's the way that I would call it. I wouldn't describe it in two buckets as much as I would describe it as the order book is not flat. I mean, there's not like you can liquidate X, but it's more like a function that if you liquidate X, the price will go down by X%. If you liquidate 10X, the price will go down by Y. The way that the order book works is that the liquidity is determined by how much you will push the price down when you sell. So you can, you can sell more and more and more, but you will get less and less and less for what you're selling.
So it seems like you've recognized the dynamics of that, and then you said, let's just bring that into kind of a separate system that implements the same dynamics, but basically does it a lot simpler, and says like, let's literally put in the liquidity. And how does so let me ask you, so like in the Bancor scenario, right? So people or somebody, the owner of the currency, has seeded like a 10% allocation of Ether to kind of back this new currency. And what you're saying is that when people sell it, some of that reserve, or sorry, the currency becomes just burned, right? Like the supply decreases. And do the people who sell it, do they get the underlying value of the Ether or whatever other token?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting Ether in back when they're kind of selling the token, when they're liquidating. We call it to liquidate the token. They were getting the Ether back. And as more and more do that, they will get less and less Ether in return, again, like would happen in markets.
But the point is that the ratio that you're describing always remains the same. Is that right?
Yes, the ratio cannot change. Even if we want to kind of be super accurate about it, the way that we built it is that the price that you're quoted, you can be quoted, you can get a quote of the price before you do the actual conversion. The price that you quoted is based on your transaction size. So you will not get the same price if you want to sell 10 tokens or 100 tokens. Effectively, the kind of fancy formula that you can see on the white paper, all it does is to make sure that if I sell 100 tokens immediately, or I sell 1 token at a time for 100 times, I will get the exact price eventually. Because if I sell 1 token at a time, you can imagine that the price will change every time that I'm selling a single token, right? So if I'm selling 100 token in 1 transaction, I will get exactly the same price, because it's kind of a linear calculation, a continuous calculation of the price, and the price is quoted based on how much you want to buy and how much you want to sell. It's all kind of incorporated into that number. So, I think the most important thing about it is that it solves the double coincidence of wants that we discussed with technology rather than with labor, because you can solve the double coincidence of wants with labor, like you would do if, let's say, there's no money in the world and only people doing barter, and I could get a lot of people that would kind of work for me, and they will do all the bartering for me, and I'll be fine. I can solve this problem with labor. And this is essentially what happens today in exchanges. There are people that work in providing you the liquidity and price discovery. That's their job. That's what they do. They're there, and when you want to convert one currency to another, because I don't know, you pay with a credit card on some other country, then you're not going to put a market order. You're just going to use the market orders that are there right now and convert your currency. It's like if you're using Shapeshifter, that's the end user. It's not for traders. It's for actual people that want to convert one form of value to another. That's what you have, Shapeshifter. And on the other side of that, you have those people who provide the liquidity, who put those orders for you, that are waiting for you in order for you to want to buy. And they're trying to make money and make a living out of it. And this is kind of automating this entire process. So it's a smart contract that makes sure that, because for the first time, you can really calculate the price over time on all the purchases and liquidation that kind of moved along, and make the price go always to this equilibrium of how much import and export you can define that there's from that currency, how much people want to convert to that currency or from that currency, and that would determine the price of the currency over time.
So again, Eyal, that's super cool. But so by analogy, if you have market makers in the market providing liquidity, like you're saying, they're just trying to kind of go to both sides of the spread, right, and make that like difference in the middle, and that is their principal source of revenue. Is there an analog in Bancor? If the system is providing the liquidity, who's making the spread?
So there's no spread. That's the beautiful thing about it. There's slippage. Slippage is different than spread. Slippage means that if you sell more, you get worse price. If you buy more, you're not going to get the same price, because that's called slippage. But you have no spread. The price for selling and buying is exactly the same. You can install a spread if you want to charge a fee for you can kind of force it on your smart token if you want in the code of the smart contract. But in the system itself, in the protocol itself, there's no built-in spread, because the contract becomes I would say the smart token is becoming its own market maker. That's essentially what it is. It's its own automatic market maker. And it's able to do that because it has access to issue itself. So when you buy the smart tokens, the smart token is issuing new units to you when you buy it, but that's a good thing because the price of each unit goes up when you do it. So it's a positive event. It's like an up round in the company. So you don't need those market makers. However, speculation is still valid. So if I see a token and I think, oh my God, the technology of these guys is just great, and people are just not getting it, like I think today about Ethereum. I'm thinking that, I wrote the other day on ETH Trader that the fact that Bitcoin worth more than Ethereum is market inefficiency. It was semi-joke, not completely joke, but because I think, I didn't get the full potential of Ethereum until I started building on the platform. Now, guess what? Most people are not building on this platform anything. So I cannot even expect most people to really understand the power behind the concept of a decentralized computer with smart contracts and all that. So I believe that this is great, and I'm going to speculate now that the value of Ether is going to go up, and that makes the same sense if you do it with smart contract or regular contract, because you want to, how your assets, the currencies that you choose to values, if you like kind of get the bottom of it, and what you believe in, what you predict. So that would happen with smart contracts as well. But you don't need the function of market makers. The participation of speculators and traders become optional rather than necessary, rather than required. That's the big difference between the two systems.
Gotcha. So I want to make sure that we dive into the Bancor product itself as well. But before that, I had like one more question. So, if I'm on your platform and I'm using this interesting protocol, and I'm the creator of a new currency, presumably, am I the one who's providing, the backing asset for that currency? And also, like, why would I do that? Do I expect a return?
So let's take some examples that we've been thinking about. So the first thing is that we look at user-generated currencies, cryptocurrencies today. Most of the examples that we see are essentially, I would call it, new form of organizations that are kind of token-based organizations, sometimes non-profit foundation, like Bancor is, which is like, you can take Golem as a good example, or Gnosis is a great example. So all of these guys are creating new currencies, again, new tokens. And if we look at how they do it, mostly you would have some kind of a crowd sale that begins this whole process. So a good way to kind of initiate a currency, so it seems, when we look at the market around us, is to start with a crowd sale. I think it makes sense, because if you have some kind of concept or idea or something you want to promote, you want to let a large group to kind of buy in the same price, right? You don't want to kind of have the second one pay more than the first one, like because Ethereum in the beginning everyone had the same price, and then it was market driven, right? Like many other examples. So if you do a crowd sale, for example, for a smart contract, what you'll do is, unlike other crowd sale, when you take 100% of the proceeds and you use them as deployed capital to achieve whatever goal you want, whether it's to develop software or to buy something or to make an agreement with some bank to create a Visa card that works with cryptocurrency. I mean, no matter what is that you're trying to do, you need this deployed capital in order to fund it. But in a smart token, you're probably going to take less than 100%. For example, you'll take 90%, because you'll leave 10% as the initial reserve. And big percent, there's like 10% the reserve. It makes the token immediately and indefinitely liquid, and where everyone can buy, everyone can sell, no need to use exchange, just do it with a smart contract. So this is how we think we'll see most of the examples of how tokens are initiated. There are obviously, I can create my own token and I can deposit the reserve, but if I do that, it means that I own 100% of the supply. So now it's a question of, how do I distribute the supply? Now maybe this is my own kind of a business currency. Just a second, there's a little noise here, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now another way. So if you're like holding the currency, and and the entire supply. So maybe you distributed it when you are giving bonus point, like miles, like a company will take miles. Sorry, my little kid just woke up, so
It's okay.
yeah, my wife is taking care of her.
Cool. So I'd love to. So can you tell us a little bit more about like what? So we've spent a lot of time discussing the protocol of Bancor and kind of the reasons for it and how it works. Can you tell us like what the Bancor product is as you envision?
Yeah. So this is maybe the most important question, because the Bancor Protocol came to solve one problem, which is very big for user-generated currency, which is liquidity. And it was obvious to us that without solving the problem of liquidity, you would not be able to create a network of currencies that are able to transfer value between each kind of sub-network freely. It would be like having many networks but no internet that connects between them, right? Separate networks that you write running with USB drives between them in order to transfer data. But that's one aspect. But the most important aspect for us is to create something which is very simple to use and bring kind of the entire blockchain usage experience to the end user, to the mass kind of or mainstream usage. And for that, the first thing that we built kind of a web experience that works on any browser, on any mobile phone, and integrate with your chatbots, because chatbots are now kind of very ubiquitous. Everyone's using kind of chat clients, and people don't like to install apps anymore, and we use your chatbot in order to kind of authenticate the user and then to send notification to the user that he can reply back. So you can do a lot from everything from the chat client. We work with like Facebook Messenger and Telegram and WeChat, and we can keep adding more as those interfaces as they evolve their APIs and SDKs. And on the other hand, to make it really, really simple for someone to kind of handle the whole kind of how do you access the blockchain and how do you manage security. So we have things that we just kind of blogged about that we're working on, that we call it delegated account recovery, for example. That means that it's okay to forget your password. With the blockchain, there's a very rough price if you forget your password. And obviously we don't want to store the key ourselves, because we don't want to go there. We don't think it's so scalable. We wanted to create a solution where the keys are in, we don't have them on the server unencrypted. We can hold them encrypted, but it means that the user needs to remember a password, or and if he doesn't, that could be a problem. But thanks to smart contracts, we could build a structure where if you forget your password, you have a guardian or more that they can initiate an account recovery sequence that has takes some time to initiate, so they wouldn't be able to abuse that that privilege, and essentially be able to transfer your funds to another account, because again, you forgot your password and you don't have access to your key. Another kind of solution is the vault that we built. So a vault is a solution that you can put most of your funds in a vault, and then even if your private key is compromised and someone else has access to your private key, he cannot steal your money, because the money is in a vault, and you can get the same help from the guardians in order to kind of save your ass if your account got compromised, to make sure that the funds move from the vault to your new account rather than to someone else's account. So there are all kind of solution that we are building in order to make it really simple for the end user, for my mom, which often forget her password to various online services, to make it even simpler for her to use such a service, to use something which is based on blockchain and cryptography. Because I think that product I can think of that created the user experience which is in that level is Coinbase, which make it really, really simple to kind of handle your crypto, but they did it simply because they are indeed a cloud service. I mean, they don't let user kind of handle their own cryptography because the user cannot do it. The average user cannot handle its own security. But you know, the reason that they've done it this way is because Coinbase has started with Bitcoin, but with Ethereum, because you have smart contracts, you have so much flexibility of how you can run your security and how kind of the contracts work with each other, that I think that there are many better solutions and more scalable solutions that can be implemented. So we're building a very nice user interface. You can actually use it right now. It's app.bancor.network, app.bancor.network, which is currently running our bounty program. So, you know, when we kind of about other token sales and ICOs, we saw that many of them are holding bounty programs, which we found fascinating because the bounty program is a user-generated currency. It's a short-lived user-generated currency, but that's what it is. They create a currency, they make up a currency, they give this currency to everyone that, you know, posted a tweet or Facebook or wrote something or translated to Russian or what have you. And this currency is distributed, and then they offer to kind of back this currency, provide backing to this currency with another currency. So with a smart contract, with the smart tokens, we are creating 5 smart tokens, which is for the translation and content creation, and people can earn those tokens by completing tasks like translating a blog post or something to some other language. And then we're sending those tokens, and those are ERC20 compatible token on the mainnet of Ethereum, and we're sending those tokens. We've distributed quite a bit. Again, if you look at the app.bancor.network, you'll see exactly how much and how many people are. You can actually see how much was distributed to each user and why. And by the end of this process, we promise to allocate, for example, for the translation, like 0.1% of all the supply of Bancor will be just for the translation bounty. So we're going to take 0.1%, whatever this number is going to be. Let's say it's going to be 1,000 tokens, which just is an example. And we're going to put those Bancor tokens in the reserve of the translation bounty token. So now each one that whole translation bounty token can convert this token one-to-one to Bancor using the Bancor protocol. This is an example of 100% CRR, 100% reserve. So there's no price discovery. It's just like a representation of one currency and another. But you can do cool stuff like that when you have direct relationship between different tokens. So you know, you're welcome to take a look, or anyone else, and see how we think about user interface and user experience in relation to kind of the blockchain world.
Gotcha. So in summary, the product is basically a platform that is really, really easy to use and enables you know, kind of general users to create their own currency. And what you have on app.bancor.network today, that's kind of a demonstration of currency creation in the context of bounty programs. Is that correct?
Yes. Currently, you cannot create your own currency, but you know, here's an exclusive. We're going to release the testnet really soon, so people will be able to kind of create. No, not the testnet actually. It's a private blockchain. We're going to set up a private Ethereum blockchain just for testing the technology, just for creating currencies, for trading between currencies that were created by users, just to get the feel of it. And to experience it. And it's not just the creation of currency. When you create and when you issue a new currency, it means that now everyone that you want can join the community and have a wallet and receive funds and send funds and see his transaction history. So it's not just a system, it's what we like to call a 3-tier ecosystem. A 3-tier ecosystem is an ecosystem where you have a platform, and then you have the super user, you have the user, the end user. And a good example for that is Reddit, right? So Reddit has a platform, and then there's subreddits that are created by super users, and there are people that using the subreddits, which are users. And the users are not coming for Reddit, they're actually coming for the subreddits. So the super user is the reason that the end user is coming to use the platform, not the platform itself. And another example is Facebook groups, and we can think of many, many more. But the idea is that with a Bancor, it's the same structure where we provide a platform. Anyone can become a super user by creating its own community or currency. We actually use the same term because every currency, every token is a community of all the people that hold that token. They form a group of sort. And they have discussions, they have member directory, and the members can be merchants or just holders. And so they have the whole suite of kind of running this, and the end user is just using using it as a wallet, as money. As soon we just released the product roadmap. So one of the things that we're gonna work on really soon is to build a marketplace, an online marketplace. So every currency that was created has a marketplace in which you can post things that you want to buy or sell for that currency with special discounts. So it's a whole kind of not social network, because it's not about social. I like to call it economic network. So if social network is between your friends, and you usually don't pass too much money between your friends, because you have other purposes from your social network. But economic networks is also something we all have. It's all the people that we collaborate with in an economic fashion. It's a different circle. It's the people you work with, the people you trade with, the people you buy with, the people you sell this. You can call it your commercial network. So Bancor, in many sense, is a platform for a commercial network rather than a social network. And we believe that this three-tier structure is the right structure for such a network.
So we have a question here in the chat. How do you envisage this, I guess, meaning Bancor, will reduce the volatility on exchanges? In other words, what impact would widespread use of this kind of protocol have on exchanges?
So one thing to understand is that when you have a smart token, it behaves like another exchange. In that sense, we have many pairs of tokens that are traded in several parallel exchanges. The reason that they have mostly the same price, especially if it's in the same territory, is because of arbitrage. I mean, it doesn't make sense to let the prices be different, because if the prices are different between two exchanges, this is a money-making opportunity for an arbitrage bot. It's not even that hard to build them, right? There's just an opportunity to make money with zero risk. So in that regard, it's important to say that if you have a smart token and the same smart token is traded in exchange, you will see arbitrage between them. So if the smart token is kind of stable, if you will, because it has a large reserve, as we said, the market depth is big, because you defined I don't know, 10% CRR, so it's relatively stable to any other currency in that size. This means that if the token is traded on other exchange, it wouldn't make sense for the price to go too far away from the price that is available directly from the smart token, which granted more stability. Again, and those who grant those stability are those arbitrage bots that actually make money from, in every case, in every instance where the prices are getting far from each other on those examples. So in that way, it can contribute to the stability. And on the longer term, one can argue that you don't really need exchanges. I mean, if you have a better system for price discovery that works automatically, because money has become programmable for the first time in history. I can program how my money will act, and it will act exactly that way and cannot be changed. I can make the case that it's not clear that you'll need any exchange in that scenario, but I can make the case that you don't need snail mail and that you don't need TV, and we still have them, right? So it's not an overnight process. It takes decades, but on the long term, I think that it is a superior system.
Awesome, Cool. So we have just a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we cover also, that you're, at least my understanding is that you guys are going to have a token sale. And I was just wondering what you can tell us about that and how that's going to work.
Yeah, so first of all, I think the most important thing to work is what is the token, because when we talk about Bancor, we talk about a concept. It's a concept of how tokens form relationship to one another in order to kind of provide a liquidity network and what I call real internet of value, right? A network of value that is interconnected. So what is the Bancor Protocol role in all of that? What is the Bancor token role is a good question. And what's important to understand is that there is this new concept that you can think of, which is network token. What is a network token? It is really the token of tokens. It's a money for money. In fact, the name Bancor was exactly that. Bancor was a proposal by Keynes. You can read about it, about Bancor in Wikipedia. It was a proposal by Keynes after World War II in Bretton Woods. And the proposal was to create a supranational reserve currency that will be used only by central banks. So the trade between all nations will be in this currency called Bancor. And this is how every country's national currency will only have one exchange rate to Bancor. And it's to balance the reserve it has in Bancor. That was the Keynesian proposal of how the world economy should work. This proposal was rejected in order to by the winners, by the victors of the war, US. I mean, that was the English proposal, but the US proposal was the one that actually was adopted, and it was a proposal to use the US dollar as the world reserve currency rather than this Bancor. So Bancor token is also a reserve currency, which meaning that the purpose is that it will be the reserve currency of every currency that's created on a platform. Because when someone wants to create a currency, he wants it to be liquid. He doesn't understand reserves. He doesn't understand. He just wanted people to be able to buy this currency and to sell this currency, and that the price will be determined by the market forces. And the way that's going to work is that every new currency created on the system is going to use Bancor as its reserve, which provide them with some kind of a network effect, because the success of one currency would actually affect all others, just like if many applications using Ether, then one successful project using Ether has a positive effect on all the projects that use Ether, because there's a network effect between them, because all share the same currency. So the Bancor network token is going to be the primary and default reserve token for every currency. It will be used for what we call token changers. So you can use Bancor in order to kind of as a hub between currencies. If you have two reserves or more, you're not limited to one reserve. You can have two reserves. So if I have a reserve in Ether and reserve in the Golem, it means that the smart token becoming a hub between Ether to Golem. You can use the smart token in order to convert Ether to Golem and Golem to Ether, and that would affect the price every time you do that. But you can be sure that arbitrage would make sure that the price gaps will be closed, because there will be money on the table for someone to make. So it creates this different dynamics, and we're going to do a pair between Bancor and Gnosis, and Bancor and Golem, and Bancor. So you're going to have all those pairs, and they're all going to be decentralized, kind of immutable. So it's and not only that, because the token changers, the smart tokens that kind of provide token changes, and we talk about it in the white paper how it's done. It's almost an exchange you can buy shares in, because if you buy the smart token, because I provide my Gnosis or my Golem or my Ether, I actually provide my currency for the liquidity pool, and I can actually make some fees out of those exchanges. So Bancor Protocol is going to be like the tissue that the Bancor token is going to be the tissue that connects all the new currencies as well as all the token changers together into one single network with single network effect that we're going to push forward. So that's kind of the essence of it. Of course, you can take the entire thing and copy it and do your own network, but you could do that with Ethereum and Bitcoin and any technology. That doesn't work. You need to build something much better. And if someone takes it and build something much better than us, then he deserves all this. We're working hard to to build something decent ourselves. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Eyal. It sounds really interesting. Love to see how this system fares against exchange trading and like the traditional market microstructure. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we go to people who might be following the project?
I think the most important thing for us is that we came to this project because we thought that money is not being managed efficiently, and we think that this many people in the industry think that if you have one currency for the entire world, that would be great. And I think that monetarily speaking, this is probably not the right solution. And I think that having a network of many currencies that seamlessly convertible to each other is a paradigm that can create much more wealth and help us kind of fight things like poverty and balance inequalities. Because when you have a choice of currency, if there's currency which is too condensed in too few hands, like you gave the example of BAT, right? But if you have a currency that that the difference between you can choose not to accept it. You have that choice. You have the choice of currency, which currencies you want to hold, and this choice, this individual choice, provide balance to the, I would say, inherent increasing inequalities and inherently increasing distance between the rich and the poor that are not healthy for any society. So we look at it as something we want to do in order for the benefit of all, and there's a lot of philosophy behind it, and we believe we want to believe that this would help achieve the goals that are important for everyone and to create a better world.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, best of luck to you. We look forward to following along, and thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Take care.